Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create and play a deck with the Skellige faction, with Crach and Craite being the leader in the newly released closed beta of Gwent. Now, something to take note of about this deck is that the difficulty isn't actually very hard. It's quite a normal, not a very easy deck, bear in mind, but it's quite a normal difficulty deck. The other thing I want to mention as well is that you can actually play this deck from level 1 without getting any new cards. So the strategy you're going to be using is pretty obvious since it's the leader's ability, and what his ability allows you to do is to spawn 2 Clan and Craite warriors, which spawn with 7 strength, which then gets minus down to 5 since that's their ability. So that ability is going to be the whole sense point of the strategy, which means if someone else is playing against you, it might be quite easy for them to recognize this strategy since that's the main ability of the leader. I should also mention about this strategy is that there is some elements of luck, that being hoping you get the right cards at the right time, and you'll have to play carefully in the final round since it's not a guaranteed victory. Now, since the closed beta of Gwent has just came out and the full game isn't even out yet, many players don't have vast knowledge of the game, but in time that will come. So some of the downsides of this strategy is that it's easily recognisable, like I mentioned earlier. Also, the strategy requires us to lose the first round, which may sound quite bad, but actually plays out quite well as the game goes on. Also, the strategy sometimes requires us to lose the first round, although it's not always required. And while doing this actually seems bad, it pays off quite well. So let's show you the deck I've built for this strategy, and explain the reasoning behind why there's certain cards and what you can do to variate from that. So, for the cards. As you can see, we've got as many Clan and Craite warriors as possible because, although our leader's ability allows us to spawn 2, we also want to get as many as possible so that we could chain it all together. So since this strategy is melee focused, it does also mean we're weak to weather effects like frost. Now you do see I have a Clear Skies ability card in my deck. That's just as a fallback in case I ever get the weather effect against me. However, when the game starts and you do have a Clear Skies in your starting cards, I do recommend you throw that one away and get something else. Something else I want to mention about this deck as well, which is quite optional, is the Donar and Hindar, I probably said that wrong, card. Now what this allows us to do is to place it on the enemy player's battlefield and get another card. Now as you can see, I also have 3 light longships which are immune to rain effects. Now these are a very good fallback card because obviously they can't be affected by rain effects, and also they will get affected by the Commander's Horn, which is why I also have that in the abilities deck. The other good thing about this deck is that it also allows you to swap out gold cards. Now I have Geralt and Ciri right now, but again you can use whatever gold cards you want, or get rid of your gold cards and just rely on those warriors. However, I don't recommend doing that. I do recommend having at least Geralt, but again it's fully up to you. Now another thing to mention as well is the Priestess of the Freya, which lets us revive a bronze unit from the graveyard. Now since we're going to be losing round 1, we want to play our Bezerker cards if we have any, and we want to use the prize winning cow card if we have any. Reason being, when we lose round 1, the prize winning cow goes away and it also spawns us a short card which has 9 strength. And because we play the Bezerker card goes away, and then on round 2 we use Priestess of the Freya to revive ourselves the bear which we get from the Berserker. Now the young Berserker cards are optional in this deck. I have them just as a fallback, again, just has some strength cards, but you can have them in or have them not in. Finally, I move on to the most important card of this deck, which is the Clan Tuirseach Axemen. I've probably butchered that name as well. So in round 2, at the beginning or after you've revived a card, you want to play this straight away. Reason being is because we want to be leading on round 2 and the other player wants to follow our actions. Now when you play this card, it's kind of a weak point in the strategy, so if it gets taken out, it's not the end of the world, but it is quite bad, because as you can read from the ability, it actually gains 2 strength whenever a unit on our side actually gets damaged, which means every time we play a warrior, it actually gains 2. So that's it for the deck coverage. As you can see, there's only 30 cards, which allows you for expansion if you really want to. But if you do expand it, please beware that you won't actually get the warriors which you need to do this strategy. Now, anyone looking to do this deck, have a look in the description. I'll type it up somewhere and I'll put a link, or I'll just put it in the description, and that'll tell you step by step using words how to do this. So then, you've got your deck set up. Let's actually jump in game and start playing. So like I said previously, the first round we're going to be using to set up for the second round, which means if you've got any cow cards, if you have any Berserker cards, definitely use them right now. Also as well, if you have Donar and Hindar, which is the spy card, which I like to call it, and gives you 1 card extra, definitely use that on this round so that you get 1 extra. So another thing I forgot to mention about Crach and Craite is that once a round finishes, you get +1 strength added to each cards in your hand, which is brilliant because even though it's 1 strength, it could make a whole lot of difference if you're on round 3 and it's very close. So moving on to round 2 now, this is when we actually go on the attack and go for the win. Now before we actually start playing any cards, if you have any Clan Brofar Hunters or any cards that actually do damage to the other players and you can take those out, definitely do that. But only do it for the first turn because we need to get set up straight away. So if you have a bear in your graveyard, definitely use the Priestess of Freya to revive that straight away. And then once we've taken out any of the enemy cards and revived any that we can do, we then need to play the Clan Tuirseach Axemen. If you have two, definitely play them straight after each other. If you have one, even better because we get to getting its strength up straight away. And then once those are on the playing field, definitely use all of the warriors you have in your hand. And then once you've used all the warriors in your hand, go ahead and use your leader's ability, which will give you 2 more of the warriors. Once you've used all the warriors possible, you want to then go ahead and use the Warcry card, or if you don't have that in hand, you can use the Commander's Horn. If you have the Commander's Horn and not the Warcry, don't worry, it's even better because what will happen is it'll double the warrior cards and it'll also double your bear and your Chort if you still have it. But then use your Warcry card, get your strength up, and hopefully you should have a good looking force. Now by this point, the enemy might say, whoa, that's a bit too much, and pass, which is completely fine, that's good. However, if they didn't pass, what we want to do now is play the Clan Heymay Skald cards. Now what this card will do, it'll add 2 strength to every card on that row, so we want to use it on the melee row. I should also say at this point, try and save your gold cards, if you have any, for the last round. Also, if you have any long ships or any gold cards, definitely try and save those for the last round when we'll go all in. But apart from that, try not to use any of your siege units, since we're going to be using those mainly in the next round. But if the opponent you're playing is actually leading, it's okay to use some of the long ships or potentially a gold card to catch up. But definitely do take advantage of the fact that we have cards that can minus strength off theirs. So now that we're on round 3, it's time to use the long ships and any gold cards that we have, because it's time to go all in and just win. If, however, you've ended up using all your cards on round 2, and you and the other guy actually have 0 cards, then just hope for the best and hope you don't get an ability card, because that sucks. However, since we don't have many ability cards, and you could probably remove a couple, like Alzur's Thunder and Clear Skies, you should get some cards which actually have a strength. So go ahead and play your longship cards and any gold cards that you have, and at this point, hopefully you've won the round 3 and you've actually won the game. So that's the strategy of how to play Crach and Craite. Now let's talk about how to actually play against it. So in round 1, if you actually recognise you're playing against this strategy, definitely try and save your cards, but you definitely need to win it. Reason being is, if you give them the point, then they might actually have a strong chance of winning the whole game, since they have a lot of cards and a lot of strength to deal with in round 2. That being said, if you have Frost, definitely keep that until near the end of round 2, since this deck doesn't actually have Clear Skies, or is optional. Another thing to do in round 2 is as well, definitely try and prioritise in taking out the Clan Tuirseach Axemen. The strategy is still good without them, but if you take them out, it just makes it a whole lot easier for you. Another thing in round 2 as well, if you have any Scorch cards, definitely try and save that until he's used all of the warriors, since if you haven't noticed, the warriors will actually be on the same level, which means they actually level up to the same amount of strength at the same time, which means if you have a Scourge card, you could take them all out and then there goes his strength. So the leaders I've actually had trouble playing against with this strategy is Eredin and Foltest. Reason being, Eredin could save a random card from the previous round and it could actually end up being a high card. And Foltest can actually duplicate a bronze card, which means it can actually duplicate any card which has a high strength, and you're kind of screwed because you have nothing to take that out with. However, the key to winning against this strategy is to just go full strength numbers against it and hope you win. So guys, that's my way to play Crach and Craite with the Skellige faction. If you guys watching have any suggestions or notice any other weak points, feel free to comment down below. So anyway, if you enjoyed this guide, please hit that like button and subscribe for more Gwent guides. But for now, thanks for watching and I'll see you guys next time.